Okay, so this is where we're at from the last tutorial. So I created a uh, specifically sized div tag for my main area where all my stuff is. And then I said overflow equals auto, which then creates a scroll bar for all the content, and I can scroll forever. So I can put as much content as I want in there. This might be a little annoying to some users, however, because they'd rather just see the whole page. And if they have to scroll, wouldn't it be better to scroll on the edge of your browser here as opposed to here? Oh, and by the way, this is Lion, so the scroll bar actually looks quite nice and very, it doesn't really mess up the design so much. But in most browsers, or most operating systems, you're going to see a really big, ugly scroll bar that's probably not going to fit your design. So there's a better way to do this. Now I'm going to go back into Photoshop here. And what I'm going to do to make this design more fluid, in other words, what happens is I put more content in the content area here. My edges are going to extend down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what I have, and I'm going to chop up my image. I'm going to slice up my image so that elements like my background here can tile. However, my header and my footer, of course, are not going to tile. So this is how we do it. We go to our crop tool and we click and hold to select the slice tool. Now what the slice tool does is you can, whoops, make sure you don't grab your rulers and guides here. That can be somewhat annoying sometimes. If I click and drag across my file with a slice tool, what it does is it creates an area that will be sliced up when I save for web, so that this will be the header, for instance, where my site title is, will then be transformed into its own image. And I'm going to slice up my entire layout. Make sure I just get it over there so that it includes the curve and all that. Make sure you don't overlap on your buttons. I might have to zoom in here really quick just to make sure. See, your slices can sometimes be a little offset here. So I'm just zooming in real close. Back to, now let's just take that down. And one more here. It's a little temperamental, this tool, but notice that each one of these slices are going to be exactly the same size. And I'm going to slice out this area right here, this big chunk, and then I'm going to take this whole area right here and slice this out. Actually, you know what, before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the M like that, and then I'm going to slice out, and this is going to be my footer down here. And I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm just going to take a little cross section right along the back here. This slice right here has what is going to be the tiled area. This image right here, this little slice is going to be tiled throughout. I'll be using most of these slices for one purpose or another. Now, back in the old days, what would happen is that I would save for web and devices here. By the way, when you go into your web and save for web dialog, you can actually click each one of your slices, select them, and then determine which image type you want to use and what the quality is and so forth. For instance, my M will be a GIF, but the rest of them, if I click on them, will just remain JPEGs. So I click Save. Now, what would happen in the old days is I'd do something like HTML images and all slices, and what this would do is create a table layout, entire Photoshop layout. And since we're not using tables anymore, that's really kind of not something we want to do, so I'm just going to do images only. And I am going to do all slices because most of them I'm going to use. I'm going to name this my site underscore layout, because all the images are going to have this name with a number after it, and that's where we're going to identify the images. Not the greatest names in the world, and you can save them in your change the names in your Finder if you so desire. But this is a quick way to slice up your images, extract the separate images that you're going to use, your header, uh, your nav bar, and your tiling and your M, and we're all going to separate those now. One other thing, when you do slices, it automatically saves in an images folder. So you don't have to create one, and if one is already created, you want to save them outside, and they will actually save inside the images folder. I'll show you what happens. So I'm selecting the root of my folder to save this. When you actually go into your Finder here, you'll see that my images folder, let me pull that up, my images folder here now has all the separate images. So there's my header. There's my about me, there's my M, so everything has been extracted here. Now I'm going to go into Dreamweaver, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm not going to use this image right now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to now first of all get rid of this singular background image that I had on my wrapper. So I'm just going to go up to my style panel and delete that. So my wrapper's gone. And I'm going to add each of the separate images to the separate div tags. So my header would have a background image of, let me go to my site 2, that was the one that I created. It's going to ask me to open that. Now, before I do this, I do need to get a width and height value. It is 800 pixels across. Unfortunately, sometimes the dimensions are there, sometimes they're not. So I'm going to look in my Finder, and my Site 2 layout will not tell me the dimensions, so I actually have to go looking for it, get info, and the width and height dimensions is 129. Now I have to remember that, because when I select this, and I'm just going to say background repeat, no repeat, and I go to my box, my height now has to be 129. Okay, and that will now, well, that didn't seem to work right, did it? Okay, I have to clear out the padding here. That's what the problem was. Okay, so 129 gives me a perfect width and height here. Now, over here, where I had my nav before, I'm just going to clear out all that HTML because I'm going to put images in instead. Another thing about my nav bar, okay, it's my Dreamweaver is being really weird, so please bear with me. These should not be here, they're gone, but the design view is not updating that. We'll see this in the browser in just a second. So, with my nav, I do have some padding in there, which I need to get rid of. Oops, and my things are back again. So my Dreamweaver is doing some very bizarre things. As you can see, it's not doing what it's supposed to. So we'll just ignore it. I do apologize. But what I am going to do is I'm going to start adding my navigation images, my buttons. Like, for instance, About Me. I'm just going to open that, give it an alt tag, click OK, and that puts that link in there. Now notice I've got a little overlap here. My About Me is 200 pixels wide. My nav div is 150, so I'm going to have to change this to 200. That's going to blow out some things here, so I'm going to have to fix that. For instance, this now has to be weight, width. Since it's 200, I'm now down to 600. Actually, is that correct? That's actually correct. We're going to fix that in just a second. Actually, let me fix it right now. So my width is, I got 20 padding, and 400, 200 minus is 600, so that would be 580. Okay, and that puts that, well, that's still a little offset, isn't it? So this is 200, 200, and this should be width. Well, okay, my math is off. I don't have a padding left. I don't have a padding right. That's why. 10 pixels. Okay. I forget all the stuff that I do. That's why I run into these problems. Okay. Keep on going. Ignore all. Wow. I keep on deleting these things and they keep on coming back. So Dreamweaver can do some really bizarre things. You see it right here. I'm going to keep on putting in my links. This is gallery. And the last one, boy, they just don't want to go away. By the way, this is Dreamweaver CS6, so it has its problems as well. Come on. All right. Okay. Oh, geez, they will not go away. Let's see what happens when I preview in browser here. Okay, so as you can see, there they are. This is blown out, so I'm going to have to figure out what my calculations are off here. Okay. So I'm going to have to make some changes to my main area. So my padding right needs to be increased. So I'm going to add 30, which means I have to take out 20. So 560 in width, of course, so that everything... The reason being is because I got to have my little line down here. Now the last one I'm going to look at is my footer, which I don't have, so I'm going to create that. Okay, so I also have to get out of the main the overflow equals auto, and I also have to get rid of the height, because the height will then be fluent compared to whatever I put in here. Also, with that in mind, my wrapper height also has to be taken out there. So there you go. Now, the other thing that I'm missing is my footer, which I have right here, and that has a height of 34 pixels that's not showing up yet because I have one other little issue to deal with, and that is that I have to create a content tag that surrounds the nav, all my content, and I'm going to have a background image on that. That's the little slice that I cut out with Photoshop. So I'll show you how that works in just a second here. So what I do is it starts right after my header tag. Let's see if I can grab it. There's my, well, that's my wrapper. Here's my header right there. I'm having trouble. My Dreamweaver's messing up on me tonight, so it's really crazy. So here's my header tag. And what I'm going to do is right after the header tag is I'm going to insert a div equals content. And the content will go all the way until just before the footer tag. And so I'm going to end the tag right there. So my content tag is going to be around this whole area. Now, what I'm going to do with my content tag is I'm going to create a style. It's not going to be a compound, it's just going to be an ID style. And my ID style is going to have a background of that little slice that I created. I think it was 8. That is just this slice that goes all the way across like that. I'm going to repeat Y, and also I have to remember to, under positioning, overflow equals hidden. It's that weird little thing that makes this tag extend with the rest of the tags. And like magic, I now have an extending tag. Also, by making it hidden, it will allow my footer to be in here. So now, when I see my website, it will extend beyond because